Hello, my name is Esteban Bergonzi, and I'm going to be talking about effective communication and career planning. Why do athletes do interviews? The purpose of an athlete doing interviews on radio stations and TV shows is so that they can get across their own opinion without any controversial opinions put out by reporters on the news or in newspapers. Athletes also partake in interviews so that they can generate more attention from people. For example, Marcus Rashford would thrive off these interviews and press conferences because he is a young player, and having these conferences and interviews just for him will increase his publicity towards the public. Communicating effectively. Verbal language is key when you are being interviewed or if you're in a press conference talking to the public, because it shows that you are portraying a professional attitude. The way to use effective verbal language with correct grammar and terminology. Otherwise, if you use slang and swear words during these events, you will portray yourself in a negative light, and the public will see you as a non-professional due to the poor character that the athlete is portraying. Non-verbal language is equally important as verbal language due to the fact that your body posture portrays your hidden feelings. An example is if an individual is excited, he or she will be more upright and alert. On the other hand, if a person is bored, his or her body posture will be more bent over. He or she will be more likely to support themselves on the desk because they cannot be bothered to support themselves because they are not really passionate about the event. Ways the media can get access to athletes' information. Reporters, newspapers and news programs on the television are able to get personal information about the athletes through the social media platforms like Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat or Twitter. They can get pictures on their accounts and they use them in their reports on the news and in the papers. The media also use their comments online in the paper and they build a story around the comments. Social media is a good way to source information from the athletes because their followers on these platforms all get notified when the athletes post something on that site. So reporters will always get notified when they have posted something. Different situations of communicating. If an athlete is on the radio, then their appearance is irrelevant because no one can see what they're wearing. However, that means people will be more focused on his voice. Therefore, it is key for the athlete to use the correct grammar and terminology and not use any slang language or swear words during the show. As you can see, David Beckham is speaking on the BBC radio, but he is not in his smartest attire due to the fact that the only part which needs to function properly is his voice, because his appearance does not matter. If an athlete is in an interview with a more influential person, such as a sponsor, the athlete will need to make sure that his or her attire is smart and appropriate for the occasion, and that they carry out the interview in a professional manner. As you can see in the picture, Anthony Joshua is at an Under Armour event, so he is wearing the appropriate clothes for the occasion, which is Under Armour clothing. Otherwise it would be inappropriate if he showed up to his sponsor's event in another brand clothing. If an athlete is doing an interview with a teammate or a manager, then they do not really need to be tensed up. They can be more relaxed and more informal to show their friendship and cohesive connection in the working environment. These two athletes from Team GB are doing an interview after their race. They are not really dressed smartly and they're not really standing up straight looking smart. They are more relaxed due to the fact that they are friends and it is less pressuring interview to do. Significant others. Significant others are an essential part of an athlete's lifestyle because they make such an impact on their life. Significant others can be people such as family members, friends, teammates, coaches and managers. All these people can affect the athlete's lifestyle, and when they are involved in an interview, in person or by question, the athlete should respect them by presenting themselves in a professional light, by talking about them in the correct grammar and keeping their composure during the interview and acting formal. As you can see, the whole of Gareth Bale's family came to Real Madrid to support Gareth when he signed for Real Madrid. No doubt that Gareth Bale felt more confident and more comfortable with his family members there with him. Now I am going to express the importance of planning for interviews. The purpose for planning for interviews is to make sure that you are prepared for the occasion for being spoken to within the interview
whether it is what you are going to wear, you know roughly what your answers are going to be for the questions, which you are going to be asked, going into the interview with a positive body stature to portray your enthusiasm and to ensure that you are using the correct grammar when you are being spoken to. Audience. It is key that a person who is being interviewed knows the type of people he or she is going to be speaking in front of, whether they are fans, sponsors, family, or friends. He or she should portray themselves in a professional light so that the viewers will have a positive image to associate the athlete with. For example, on the left we have two presenters on Soccer AM11. Their viewers are more young, so they're going to speak to them in a more informal way. However, on the right, Ronaldo is at a Nike event, which are his sponsors. They will expect Ronaldo to act in the most formal manner to portray the company in a positive light. Rehearsal. It is important for an athlete to go over their responses or review their appearance many times before the actual interview takes place, to ensure that he or she is more confident in their own appearance and their speech and forms of communicating verbally towards the interviewer and non-verbally with their eye contact and body posture. Scripts. Scripts are key for athletes in interviews due to the fact that they help athletes memorize what they have to say during the interview. It will make their conversation during the interview more fluent. It will also make the athlete less nervous because he or she knows what they are going to say and they are not making things up on the spot. Now I'm going to move on to the part where career planning is important towards athletes. Importance of planning sporting and backup careers. It is important for an athlete to plan a career because he or she will have a lot to think about with the potential sponsors, being prepared to travel because the athlete will need to travel to different countries to play sport, and they may need to take into consideration who they are going to be working with, whether they are coaches, managers, agents, or teammates. The athletes should also take into consideration what they want to achieve during their career. The athlete also should keep in mind that their career could be cut short at any time, so they need to make sure that they have the necessary educational requirements and qualifications to be able to find another source of work. Possible backup careers for athletes. Athletes have a lot of other possible jobs to do if their professional career is cut short. They could get jobs as coaches, sports teachers in gyms, schools and clubs. They could get involved in a more scientific side, such as being a sports scientist, and they could do other jobs like physiotherapy and sports rehabilitation. SWOT analysis and what they are used for. S stands for strength. Strength is the basis that an athlete should get acquainted with so that they can find it easier to work on different factors of their strength every session. W is for weakness. The weakness factor is to allow athlete to be aware of what factors of their performance will need work on. The O stands for opportunities. The opportunities section makes it clear what the athletes can do and what they can take advantage of. T stands for threats. The threats factors are hazards or situations where it can affect an athlete's performance in a negative way.
Helping athletes lay out a career plan. Athletes can plan out a career by setting themselves SMART targets to achieve. They come in the form of 3 parts. They come in short-term goals, which usually have a duration of 1 month. They also have medium-term goals, which usually last for 6 months. And then you have the long-term goals, which usually last throughout their career. Greg's SWOT analysis of football. Greg's strength in football is his ability to shoot on goal. He manages to get a lot of power on the shot, and he also can make the shot very accurate as well. Greg also has the ability to pass the ball over various different ranges, whether it's long range pass or short range pass. He makes the passes accurate and puts the right amount of power behind the pass to reach the player. Greg's weaknesses in football is heading the ball. He always misjudges the height and the power of the ball when it's heading towards him. He either jumps too early and the ball ends up missing his head, or he jumps up too late and the ball hits his chest instead of his head. When he manages to connect with the ball with his head, He always gets scared and ends up scrunching his head in and cannot generate any power on the ball. Greg can mend his weaknesses by getting someone to cross balls into the box and heading the ball on goal. He can do this over long periods of time so he can get used to reading the trajectory of the pass in the air and get used to timing the header and getting the ball on target with the right amount of power. The threats for his improvements on his weaknesses is the fact that Greg might not have any available friends to help him with his improvement drills, or he might not have access to an 11-a-side pitch to header the balls into the goal. My name is Esteban Bergonzi. Thank you for listening.